All right, we're live. It's Monday. We're waiting on Rob, like always, because Rob takes forever. No, it was my fault today. Anyway, we're going to talk about if you've been paying attention to any of the other social medias. Rob has his social media, the YouTube. Also, we have our own Instagram as well. We're going to talk about Fiat's future in North America because, well, it's Rob's favorite car company right now, and they're talking about maybe, who knows, maybe Fiat may be pulling out of the North American car market again. Because I think, what was it, 83? I want to say they pulled out originally, something like that, and then they finally just came back with recently, and they're not having a great time with it. So, once we got Rob on here, we'll have a chat with it and figure out what's going on. Put up some speculations and maybe be able to figure some stuff out. But again, waiting on Rob. He's probably got a headphone issue. There he is.
Yeah.
Uh oh. You don't have a hat on?
Oh no. I forgot.
I, I,
I went
I'm,
to grab a drink and I was like, I think I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm
And
just
no,
letting you
yeah.
know. Just letting you know in case Freddie hops on.
He's gonna stay it anyway. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not wearing a hat today. Deal with it.
All right.
I'm not
Sounds
that
good.
I'm not that bald. I'm thinning at most.
So, anyway, yeah, I was letting everyone know that you have a new video out on the YouTube about what we're going to be talking about tonight, and that it's your favorite car company at the moment, and
It
kind of
is.
we're kind of figuring out what their future in America might be.
Yeah, well, it's definitely interesting. And I gotta say, I was pretty surprised to see that the MSNBC guys over there were saying that Fiat was basically failing in the United States.
Well,
What I thought was a big. I mean, that's pretty much what they said. I mean, you sent the thing to me, so I'm assuming you watched it. But they're pretty
yeah,
much
I
like
watched.
Fiat's failing in the U.S. And I'm like, are they though?
I wouldn't say that
I
they're
mean, are they?
failing. I wouldn't say that they're failing. I would say that they're probably underperforming what they expected.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, at the time they came to the United States, what was our average gas price? Like 380 or something like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I
No,
mean,
just
they did
taking a
great when they
second to
first
share.
came over. They did great when they
Oh yeah.
first came. But like you
Every,
said, the gas prices have dropped, and people are starting to buy bigger SUVs. And heck, every car company right now is moving towards you know, bigger cars.
yeah, it's really interesting. So I started looking up all the different I actually have a little note sheet today that I made because I started looking up
Ooh,
all the different numbers on this because what they were talking about is how, the Fiat 500 sales are down by 50% and they thought they were going to be selling 50,000 units a year here in the US and I was kind of like, well, you know what? That's interesting. Why are they down? What's the big deal? And everybody seems to be moving. They were talking, the percentage of the car market share is entirely SUV right now. I mean, and and I really think it has a lot to do with the fact that you can buy a compact SUV or an extra large, double, triple size SUV, and everything in between. Like if there's an SUV for you, like there is, and
I tell you right
it's
now,
it's
though,
pretty crazy.
that's that's gonna be a bad. That's gonna be bad down the road.
Okay.
I'm just looking like future wise here because look at minivans. Everybody had one or two. Every car company had at least two different minivans, right?
Yeah.
Now there's none. Now there's none. You don't even see full size vans anymore.
Yeah, it's
So
very, very,
I
very
mean,
rare.
eventually SUVs are going to run their course. People aren't going to want to buy them, and all these car companies are going to have to go back to the drawing board and start making cars again.
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring up the minivan because I think right now, I think there's three total. You can get the
Yeah,
Honda Odyssey, the Toyota Sienna, or the Grand Caravan. And that's, well, I think they do the Grand Caravan Chrysler Town and Country. It's the same van.
yeah.
It depends if you
And
like the Chrysler version or the
here's
Dodge
the
version.
craziest thing about this. A lot of the Japanese cars that are sold here in America aren't even offered in Japan
Yeah.
because they're too big for what they want.
Well, that and Japan has a lot of street size restrictions in certain areas.
Mhm.
Like there's areas in Japan basically where my 500 is a big car. They'd be
Yeah,
like, "Whoa,
yeah,
you're driving that big of a thing?" Like as funny as a lot of a lot of
yeah.
you guys will
They
probably find that. They're
they look at you. They
they
look at you with your Fiat 500 and go, "You, dude, get that monster truck out of here."
yeah, that's got 100 what 1.4 liter. No, 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 no. We have to be
No.
below 1 liter over here. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
whoa, way too big, way too big.
right. Heck,
Yeah, no, it's
some of those things run off a Hayabusa engine, pretty much.
yeah, basically, a lot of them have to be really, really low on the displacement scale. But
Yeah.
okay, so I looked up some numbers here, and I've got a whole note sheet that I wrote out here because we're talking about the Fiat 500 itself. And
Right.
well, before we get into the numbers, one of the things that like I talked about in my video was how I don't think Fiat got a fair shake when it came to the U.S. I don't think anybody gave Fiat a chance, and like one of the things I talked about was how when you come out with the first generation model of a new car, it's going to have issues. It's just going
True.
to. It doesn't
True.
matter what it is. And so when Fiat first came over here, and it already had a bad reputation from the 60s and 70s, like that should even count anymore.
Yeah.
And then they want to say, well, it's a Fiat, so it's still going to be bad. And they only test the new 500, and they go, yep, those ones break. I mean,
Well,
they didn't really get a fair shake at the market, in my opinion.
well,
I
I
don't think they
think
really got a fair shake.
I think part of the biggest reason why they didn't get a fair shake is because it was a little car, and we're so used to our little cars being bigger than a Fiat 500. I mean, look at the size of a Focus compared to a Fiat 500, and that
Right,
was a tiny car.
right,
So I think a lot of people looked at it like, that's a toy. Who's gonna buy that?
right.
And then, like you said, the thing about their reliability issues from the past, I can see a lot of people going, oh, it's kind of like the whole Chevy and Ford debate.
Yeah,
People are legit fanboys no matter what. My family's always had Chevys or my family's always had Ford, so I can't stand those other ones over there. People see those things, see the Fiats coming across and going, I'm never going to buy one of those just for the fact that it's not an American car or it's not this brand. And other people who are just kind of blindly following along with that don't realize that they have the internet. They can do their own research.
right,
You know,
right.
like
You can make up your
there's
own mind.
people, yeah, you know, there's people who have the car and didn't like it to begin with and bought it and they're like, oh wow, this is a lot better than I thought it was.
Right, right.
You know,
And it's crazy because a lot of what that article was talking about is how like, oh, the Fiat brand overall is doing bad, and like that's sort of kind of true, but like you said, right? Like it's not an American name brand, right? It's not a big name
right,
brand, and they're a very niche market company, very similar to Mini, um, in regards to the fact that Mini makes the two door, small car. It's actually bigger than the Fiat 500, but they make the
right,
small two door hardtop. Then they have a four door. They have a two door convertible. Like they made a bunch of different versions of the Mini, and that's kind of what they tried to make Fiat, right? Because they made
right,
the Fiat L, the Fiat X, and then they went ahead and did the Spider, which was like kind of off on its own. Um,
right.
but that's another thing. Like when they talk about reliability issues, well, the 500X is the Jeep Renegade. No one will tell you that
Yeah,
the Jeep Renegade is a bad car. It's the same car. They
right.
put a different
Exactly.
body on it. It's the exact
It's
same
yeah.
car. So,
Mhm.
like I said, I don't think they got a very fair shake when it came to that.
That's what I'm saying is
The
like people look at it and they go, oh, you can put both of those cars out in front of somebody, and somebody's gonna go, I'm gonna go for the Jeep. Well, why? Because the Jeep's American.
yeah,
It's not though. I mean, the name
yeah,
is, but it's not.
right, right, and it's a lot to do with
But
name
it's
recognition, I think too.
yeah,
Yeah, we have a very flooded market right now. And then also when they came out with the Spider is a Mazda Miata with
Hmm.
I mean, it's the Mazda frame. They obviously changed the body. It's a Mazda transmission. It's a Mazda driveline and rear
Yep.
end. The only thing they did was they put the 500 Abarth engine in it, and I think the
Hmm.
500 turbo engine in the base models, right? And but I mean, it's a Mazda Miata. No one's going to tell you that a Mazda Miata is bad. And so I was
Right.
like, all right, hang on, because the market is shifting and there's a lot of crazy different stuff going on. So where does everything fall? And so let's start here with the Fiat 500 sales numbers, because what they're
Oh,
saying is
jeez.
that, oh man, oh yeah, no, I made notes. I made notes because I had to like I was really interested because they're like, oh, they're failing. The Fiat 500 numbers are less than 50%. Like, okay, but what about the mini numbers? What about the Fiesta and the
Well,
Spark and all these different
they're not
things,
just
right?
talking about the 500. They're talking about Fiat in general across the board.
Right.
Like
Which is
even
which
even
is
even
true.
their other brands that they've got coming over, like Alfa Romeo and stuff like that.
Well, like I said, they don't have name recognition right now.
Right. Well, it's
As
because
of
they
right
have.
now,
Look,
there's
they
no
just
name
came back with
recognition.
what, 2014, 2015.
Well, the Fiat came 2011 is when the U.S. sales started, and then every few years they brought Maserati, and then they brought Alfa Romeo, and it wasn't like they brought Alfa Romeo over here all together. It wasn't like, oh hey guys, here's all the Alfa cars. They brought
Right.
they brought the Giulia, and then they brought the Stevio, and they brought smaller.
Right. Right.
The
Right.
4C that you can that's an order car. You have to
But
order that one. That's a
what
cool
I'm
car.
saying is, they've only theoretically been back in the market for
Few
seven,
years
8 years.
tops.
When you've got all these other brands who've been here for decades,
Right.
and it's kind of like trying something new. You've been eating the same meal for 30 years, and someone goes, here, why don't you try this? You're like, I don't know. And then you try it and you're like, okay, I kind of like that. That's not bad, but I'm not
Right.
going to order it again. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No. Definitely. Definitely. But it's funny because okay, so like the 500, so like it started off 2011 with like 20,000 units for sale, and kind of peaked its market in 2012 with 44,000 units, and then right now at 2018, they only sold 5,000, right? Fiat 500s.
okay.
But you take and compare that to the Mini Cooper, which and I had to break it down to just the two-door hardtop because there's a million different minis out there, and their numbers are kind of the same. They sold 28,000 in 2011, and in 2018 they were down to 10,000. So I mean, markets fall in there as well.
Mhm.
It's the small car market. If you look at like the Fiat or the Ford Fiesta, um, Ford is the big name brand here, right? Like they should
Right.
have, top sales numbers, and they do. At 68,000 in 2011, and they fell to, what was it, 46,000? So not a huge fall, but I will note this, that Ford felt it was a big enough drop that they're no longer making the Fiesta after this year. This is the
Hmm.
last year of the Fiesta.
Right.
Same with the Chevy Spark. You start off with 12,000. They're at 23,000. They peaked at about 40,000. So they've fallen off in the small car market. So you
Yeah.
see, like the small car market itself is just falling off. Just you've got lower gas prices, um, and, and the vehicles are more fuel efficient, especially the larger vehicles now. And when you can buy a subcompact SUV and it'll do 30, 35 miles to the gallon, but you can have that bigger car and still get the gas mileage that you're looking for. It's kind of hard to justify buying a small car sometimes. I mean,
Hmm.
I think in this current market.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Most, like you said, most people are wanting. A lot of people are starting to do the whole overlanding thing, and so people are buying bigger SUVs, mid-sized trucks, and if they aren't buying the bigger SUVs, they're buying the smaller SUVs because it's like the station wagons back in the day or the minivans back in the day.
Right.
They can do the same amount as they could with these these newer smaller SUVs, and the only reason why most people are buying smaller like Fiat 500s or Fiestas or Sparks is most likely initial price, or they want something different, or they really don't have a lot of space.
Yeah. So yeah,
You
because the
know,
car's
hell,
designed basically,
I was just watching something that Smart Car is getting rid of their rid of one of their cars.
yep, that smart car's going.
Smart,
Smart car's gone because
yeah. So
It's part of the Daimler, Mercedes Benz stuff, and
mhm,
smart car's going. They're getting rid of smart car
yeah,
because you can get good gas mileage with bigger vehicles now. And then you take into account that we've got I mean, especially here in the Midwest, we've got really bad roads. Like our roads are terrible. So you sit up a little higher, you have that extra cushion between you and the massive potholes. It's not as bad of a ride, and it's a little more comfortable. You're a little bit more
yeah.
roomy. You get a little bit more amenities in stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, really, like I bought my Fiat 500 for several different reasons. I mean, obviously, I like small hatchbacks. Just a thing. I like them, but it's just me driving back and forth to the city every day. I do 450 miles a week, right? It's about 2 hours a day in the car, and I don't like. There's nobody else that rides in there but me. What's the point of
Mhm.
having a big car? It's easy to zip in and out of traffic. It's turbocharged. It makes a lot of cool noises, and it's a fun car to drive. I'll tell you what. I was really surprised when I bought my Fiat 500 and joined like I normally do, performance car groups. I'm like, okay, let's join up with the Fiat 500 owners, and people really like the people that buy Fiat 500s love their Fiat 500s. Even some of
Right,
the
right.
people that like are like, oh yeah, the car is unreliable and this and that, but I'll still buy them. Like there's just this like I'm serious. There is an X factor about this car that people just don't like. They look at it and they're like, huh, and they don't give it the chance that it deserves. But it really it does something to you. Like it really does. So like it gives you the feels like right in this area here. It really does. It's an interesting thing. Like kind of the way I feel about my DSM is the same way I kind of feel about my Fiat. And I didn't think that it was going to have like I thought, it's got a daily driver, kind of feel to it. It'll be fun. I'll enjoy driving it. But I'm never going to
Right.
feel the same way I do about like my DSM. But I actually find myself going, I do. I kind of have it. It's one of those cars. It's got an X factor to it. I don't know what to tell you.
Right, right. I don't know. I mean, like I said, Alpha came out with, like you said, basically Fiat and Alpha. Well, Fiat owns Alpha and everything like that. But they brought a couple of cars over, and that what was it? That 4C that you found that one day.
Yeah, it was at IKEA. It
Alpha
was weird.
Alpha is not offering the coupe anymore. They're only going
Oh
to
yeah.
offer they're only going to offer the more expensive convertible because they
Hmm.
sold 250 of them last year. That's it.
Ah,
In 250 in the United States. That was it.
it makes sense. It's a very. I mean, it's like an every man. I wouldn't say every man Ferrari, but it's like a Lotus type car, right? It's
Mm,
that kind of market where it's very very minute. It's very niche market.
right,
It's
right.
very by itself.
And
Yeah, I could see that.
the people who have them love them, but it's hard to get that traction with a lot of these other people who are so used to, well, if I'm going to spend $60,000 on a two-door little two-door roadster, I'll buy a Mustang or I'll buy a Camaro or I'll buy something else. And then you get these guys who like these kind of cars, and only got a handful of people because you're spending $60,000 on what essentially is basically a smaller Ford Probe. Yeah, I mean it's about that size. I mean it's about the size of a Ford Probe, and who
Yeah,
wants it?
it's a decently small car. Yeah, it's cool though, and it's got that
Oh yeah,
exotic look
I
to it.
mean,
It's honestly it's the type of car that's like Lotus, where it's for the people who want an exotic car but can't afford an exotic car, right? So
it's an entry
this
level
kind of fills
exotic
that
car.
guy. Hey, what's up, Jeremiah? How you doing, bud?
Oh, good. I like watching Roadkill. I haven't seen it in
Yeah,
a hot minute.
Roadkill's nice. Yeah, you know what? I haven't been keeping up on Roadkill either. I've been keeping up with Mighty Car Mods recently. That's been
Yeah. Well,
my jam. They're building that Subaru up. It's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, okay. So I was looking at the 500X, and I thought this was interesting because we see the market shifting to SUV big time, right?
Right.
And the 500X is technically an SUV. It's a subcompact SUV, which is the smaller share of that market.
Right.
But its numbers are way down. So like it came out in 2015 at like 9,500 units, right? It peaked 2016 with 12 and a half, and is all the way down to 5,000 units this past year. Whereas the Jeep Renegade, which is literally the same car with a different body, started off in 2015 at 61,000 units, and last year it was 97,000. Peaked the same year. It peaked in 2016 at 106,000. But it's the same car.
Mhm.
It's the same. It's the same engine, transmission, driveline,
But also,
all-wheel drive system. Same, all same.
but also, is Fiat offered in Japan? Because Jeep sells a handful of units out in Japan that a lot of other car makers, a lot of non-Japanese car makers, can't even get their foot in the door over there.
Uh,
Ford hasn't sold any. Ford hasn't been in the Japanese market since 2017, and
yeah.
Chevy has like the smallest little sliver of market share over there, and then Jeep sells like 10,000 units every year over there.
Well, I just did sales for the U.S. So I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah, we saw that one too. That was a good one.
Oh yeah. Where they swapped the car. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't check the Japanese sales for any of this stuff. I don't know if the 500 is available in Japan. But like I said, all I did was the U.S. sales numbers. So this is
Right. No, I know,
entirely
but
100%
again,
U.S. sales.
as we've been saying though, as we've been saying, they name recognition. Everyone's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's a Jeep. I'm gonna buy it." Oh, it's a
I think
Fiat.
too.
It's not reliable. I don't know enough about it. I'm not gonna do the research.
There's several
Well,
things
it's the
that
same
I think.
vehicle.
Yeah, I think that contribute to the 500X kind of falling off and not really sticking in. Obviously, name recognition, because the Jeep Renegade being the same truck is doing great. Um, and then you've got basically like they did the same kind of thing that Mini did, where they just tried to make the same car but slightly different. So they just tried to make a bigger 500, and the styling's just not. I don't think that it's very popular here in the United States. I have a lot of people that are like, "Hey, that's neat looking," but not a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I really like the way your car looks." You know what I mean? And I had some people
Right.
as audacious enough to tell me that it's just ugly. I just like, okay,
Well,
I disagree, but
look at our newest
thanks.
comment.
What's that? Don't like the little modern 500s. 67 Fiat convertible. I could do with those. I don't. You know
See?
what? I got to be honest. I don't understand why you don't. I mean, for as far as like, if you don't like small hatchbacks, I understand that. But if you're talking small hatchbacks, I mean, Mini Cooper, Fiat 500. Which one were you? I mean, that's it. That's all I got. Well, I guess maybe
Yeah,
you could say Volkswagen Golf, but those are still pretty big.
those
Um,
are those are huge compared to those two cars.
the Fiesta and the
Who?
Spark are dead. Those aren't being made any. Those, this is the last year for Fiesta and for Spark. For Chevy and Ford, those are gone,
Right.
gone. And
What else
I,
does
they're not.
Dodge?
They're both 5 doors. They're not. They're not 3 doors like mine. No,
Dodge doesn't
Dodge.
have it in that market, does
Mm-mm.
it?
No,
I
because
mean,
the
because they're
Fiat
smaller.
owns them. They don't want anybody in their market.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
I mean, their smallest vehicle is what? The Dart,
the Dart, the Dart, yeah,
and I mean
which is
that's still far bigger than any of the Fiats that are out right now.
right, right.
So I mean,
No, I don't understand like the dislike for the styling. I mean, it's got a very classic kind of look to. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm the weird one, and I'm okay with that. I could be the weird one. Totally fine with
Yeah.
that. But Jeremiah, why don't you like it? You got to tell me. I want to know. Okay.
I don't know.
You gotta back it. You gotta have some reason. There's some reason you don't like it, and I want to know.
It's one of those things where someone says I don't like it because, and you're like because isn't an answer.
Yeah. Well, just cause
No,
it's lame, dude. Bro, it's just cause
there you
it's
go.
ugly.
That's a better
Like,
answer
no,
than because.
no. Give me a reason. Give me a reason. But I was
But
also going to bring out the fact that in the subcompact SUV, we were talking about the 500X. The subcompact SUV market is being flooded right now. Ford came out with the EcoSport, which is slightly smaller than the Escape. You got Hyundai came out with the Kona. You've got Honda with the HR-V. You had that Buick, whatever the crap that little weird thing was. I mean, there's a ton of these compact SUVs coming out.
I tell
And
you,
if you're looking for a compact SUV, you're going to go Honda, you're going to go Jeep, you're going to go Ford, you know.
Okay, that's a valid reason.
See? So it's not
At
the
least I would
500.
say.
You just don't like little hatchbacks. That's exactly my point.
There you go.
I think that's
Well,
Fiat gets a
I
bad
honestly
shake because
think
of stuff like this.
I honestly think that if a car company was to come out with a decent, I wouldn't say Taurus-sized sedan, but a decent mid-sized sedan, that some of these people with their their mini SUVs would go back to sedans, because it's basically, some of these subcompact SUVs are just over glorified sedans.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
once in a while. I mean, do the Fiat do any of these SUVs have like 4x4 in them, or are they all
Oh yeah,
two-wheel
no,
drive?
that's like the biggest thing for, I think, the SUV. When you get that jacked up car, they are,
Right.
yeah, the 500X is 4-wheel drive, so is the Renegade. You can get it in the Hyundai and the
So
Honda,
if you
and I don't know, and Ford also. Ford also offers the EcoSport in 4-wheel drive. Yeah.
so if you were able to create I don't know, a decent size sedan with all-wheel drive system, I think some of these people would go back to actually driving sedans. It's just a couple of different creature comforts that these people want, and the SUVs are what's offering it, and these sedans are kind of lacking because they're not worried about them.
Right. Right. Well, and
And that's the
you have to look
shift.
at right, definitely, because the sedan went from rear-wheel drive to front-wheel drive to goodbye. I mean, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. And now you've got SUVs that are all like, hey, you could get front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, depending on the company you're going with and the system that
Mm-hmm.
they want to claim that it is. But
Yeah.
it's one of the it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you know what? If they had if they had a decently priced all-wheel drive sedan, because like they did do, like Chrysler tried to do the 300 all-wheel drive sedans, but they were very, very pricey. Even for the V6 model, it was like, well, I could get a rear-wheel drive V8 or I could get the V6 all-wheel drive, and it was, comparable options as far as that
Well,
went.
it's like the Taurus. I was gonna look at buying a Taurus, just to see what it was, and the only option that they had was the SHO. You could only get the SHO in all-wheel drive, and that started at $40,000.
Yeah.
And now you can get all of the same options and four-wheel drive in a $23,000 mini SUV.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's the reason why people keep moving back to SUVs, is because all of these little creature comforts that they want, that used to be able to get in sedans and decent sized cars, they don't offer it anymore because the market's shifting, and the car companies, instead of trying to retain those people in those vehicles, they're just like, everyone's buying SUVs, let's build more of them. So now
Right.
there's
Right.
500 different SUVs, and everyone, like Ford is talking about getting rid of every single car except for the Mustang. Chevy's talking about getting rid of all of their cars. I mean,
Oh,
it's
Chevy's
gonna
doing
be,
that. Those are gone. Ford's
but
talking
I
about
mean,
doing that.
it's gonna be a bad idea. It's gonna be a mess.
It's
It's
okay
gonna
if you're a
be
little
like
drunk, Jeremiah. It's always nice to. It's fine.
it's gonna be
It's
like
Monday night.
it's
Just go for it.
it's gonna be like when back in the '70s, when all of the big gas guzzler American cars were sucking down fuel and didn't know what to do, and then the Japanese market scoops in and just
Right.
inundates everybody with everything that they wanted.
And they go, don't worry, guys. We've been in an oil crisis for 20 more years than you have. It's totally fine. We got
We
this.
know exactly what you need, and that's what's going to happen is people are going to get sick of the SUVs, and and one of these car companies is going to come out with just some random car, and it's not even going to be good, and it's just going to blow up and take over the market, and people are going to be like, oh, we need to make cars again, and and
Yeah.
then you're going to have a handful of years of just crappy cars getting churned out because they're just trying to get back into making cars, and they don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing anymore.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. So let's talk about roadsters for a second here. Because Fiat does make the 124 Spider, which, if you don't like the 500, okay, you don't like small hatchbacks, you don't like the hatchback look, that's why you don't like the 500, 500X. Nobody likes the 500L. That's just a weird looking thing. No one likes it. But the Spider is gorgeous. If you're a car guy, there's no way you don't like the Fiat Spider.
I have seen the Spider. It looks pretty good.
It's fantastic, is what it is. It's absolutely fantastic. But they're losing kind of some market share there too. But I was comparing it to the Miata, which is same thing, and their numbers are right on par. Like from where Fiat started the Spider in 2017 versus where Miata was at 2017, and where they both were last year, their numbers both dropped by about 1,000, 1,500 units each, and they're identical. I mean, obviously Mazda sold more because more people know Miata than they do Fiat. But yeah, I don't see them like. I don't know where the Roadster is going to fall into. The Miata's always been there. They've kind of always dominated that niche market. You had the Honda S2000 jump in for a little bit, but they were kind of overpriced and weren't as cheap and easy to work on as the Miatas. Now you've got the Fiat 500 or the Fiat, 124 Spider, and the only problem that I can see with the Spider is that for some reason the aftermarket for these cars is really, really expensive, like just ridiculously expensive. The aftermarket for my 500 is very expensive, and I don't get it. Like the exhaust systems are like $1,000 to $1,500 for an exhaust system, and it's not that big of a car. There's not that much metal.
Because it's Italian.
So they still are bending the pipes and welding them in the same place that they do the other pipes for the other cars. Why is it different?
I think Fiat, like you said before, the reason why Dodge doesn't have a small little hatchback like the Fiat, like Fiat does, is I think Fiat is trying to, I wouldn't say corner the market, but they're trying to make sure that anything that is made for their car is up to their standards, and so you have to be basically tested out by their people and approved by their marketing department and stuff like that, which makes it way more expensive because you've got a whole bunch of more red tape to do it, and there's only a handful of people who want to deal with all of that stuff, and so they can charge whatever they want because where else are you going to buy it?
Right, that's true. I mean, honestly, when it comes down, when my warranty finally is up, a couple more years, I'm going to weld my own exhaust together. I'm just going to buy one of those piping kits. I'm going to weld my own exhaust together. I don't see why not.
Do it. Yeah. Why not?
Buy some nice exhaust tips and weld it in there exactly how I want it. Because I've seen the designs. I've seen how they're designed. It really wouldn't be that big of a challenge to basically copy the design. Take a few measurements to see where their bends are, and then just buy the pre-bent stuff, a few cuts, weld it together. Done.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
Why not?
The tuning computers are actually decently priced. They're reasonable as far as the rest. Around $600, like everything else is. But when you look at like the intake systems and the exhaust systems, it's really silly. And I think honestly, that hurts Fiat because, well, at least here in the United States, because we love tuning and modifying stuff. And if it was just a little bit cheaper to tune and modify, I think that you have a lot bigger of a share in the market.
Of course. Well, not only that, but you'd have a lot more people looking at them going, what can I do differently to that car that somebody else hasn't done? kind of like when you see like the Toyota Prius with the Liberty Walk kit. Now you're going to see a whole bunch of these Priuses show up, and they're going to be they're going to have that body kit on it, but they're all going to be a little bit different. And now the Prius is going to be, oh wow, it's in the forefront because people are, it's a new thing and people are modifying it. If Fiat made it easier to modify the 500s, I guarantee you there'd be a lot more of those things showing up on people's Instagram feeds and Facebook posts and stuff like that,
Right.
because they're going to want to show it off, and more people are going to be like, oh man, check this out. Look what they did to this. Look what they did to that.
Right. Right. What Fiat really needs to do, because look, the small hatchback is all about being a
Well, yeah,
fun
that is
car
awesome.
that's fun to modify and fun to drive. It really is. It's a ton of fun to drive. And the Roadster is the same thing. Fun to modify, fun to drive, that type of a vehicle. What I think they need to do is they need to do like what a lot of the other companies are doing, and that's make their own in-house parts. Where I want to be able, like, if I could go to Fiat and be like, yes, I bought the Fiat 500 Abarth, but I want the upgraded Abarth intake, or whatever. Maybe they
Mm-hmm.
go with the Mopar stuff. I would like the Mopar intake, and I want the Mopar springs on it. I'm serious. Give it to me. I
Right.
would buy
Oh,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Just make it available. Oh, you want the special tune on your Abarth? We got a Mopar tune for you. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. Well, please, yes, please, and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, give me some flex fuel because I would like to run E85s, and I'm tired of waiting for this warranty to die.
Oh my god. But yes, Prestigard, we definitely do need more people who know how to work on their own cars, which is kind of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be able to pass tips, tricks, techniques, the knowledge to be able to do it. If you're scared of getting your hands dirty and you don't know where to start, you know, maybe someone can dive in and give you a hand. That's what Rob's doing with his in the garage videos, just kind of going in depth with his repair videos and kind of giving you little things that most of the other repair videos don't show you. Like like that one time when you were talking about making the retainer clips out of a
Yeah.
washer. No, I've never seen that in another video. You know what I mean? Like little things like that is what we're trying to do here.
Right, and that's why I brought up welding up your own exhaust. When you're faced with something like what I am, where it's like I'd like to put a different exhaust on it, not because the exhaust sounds bad, because the exhaust sounds phenomenal, but just because the exhaust it isn't how I would like it to be as far as the way it
Mm-hmm.
flows. There's some places where it could open up a little bit more. It could make the engine breathe. It's a small engine. It's turning a big turbo, and the exhaust could be a little bit more free flowing, and that's basically what I want. But I'm not going to pay $1,500 for that. Like for $200, I can get a piping kit with all nice mandrel bent piping.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go down to the local hardware store and pick up a spool of stainless steel wire for my flux core welder, and I'll weld that thing up myself. That's okay.
Yeah,
I can do that. We'll be all right. you know.
I mean it's better than nothing, and it's way better than spending $1,500 on something that you can take care of for a quarter of the price,
Right.
and
Easily.
which is another reason why we're doing what we're doing here. Is if you take care of stuff yourself, you save a bunch of money.
So much money. Oh, so much money. It always
It's
kills
in
me when I watch certain car shows where they're like, "Oh yeah, we bought this for $700 and this for $1,500 and this for," I'm like, dude, why on earth are you dumping so much money? Just like,
yeah.
throw money and more money. I'm like, dude, stop. You could make some of this stuff and you can figure it out
It's
yourself. Like,
it's one of the well, not even that. It was one of those things of we brought it to this shop to do this, and we brought it to this shop to do this, and it's like you realize that 20 hours that it spent at that shop and the 5 hours it spent at that shop, you could have done it yourself in your own garage that you're showing the car off in, and saved $10,000.
right. Oh yeah, big time.
and now
Big
and
time.
now when you're trying to sell this car at a profit, and you're asking for 10 grand over what it should actually be, because you screwed yourself, you know. Exactly. Boom. Exactly, pass on the knowledge to the
Absolutely,
younger
dude. That's
generations.
awesome.
Because
Hell yeah.
if we don't do it, it's gonna get lost and it's gonna get forgotten. Like that one video I shared a little earlier with slicing the bolt down the middle, so it would
Yeah.
help
So
squeeze in so you can thread it in easier.
yeah,
If honestly, people could use that,
yeah.
and
It's a quick, easy way to
if you know
repair
it
some slightly damaged threads. Yeah, absolutely.
and if you know it
Kind
and other people don't, it's gonna get lost. It's gonna get forgotten. People are never gonna use it again.
Oh yeah, and you always got to bring your kids in the garage. I remember one of the times me and Marty were working on the DSM, and my son was maybe
Yeah,
2 at the time, and he's just got a wrench and he's just turning it on the one of the wheel studs. He's just stripping that thing out, and Marty's like, "Is that okay?" And I'm like, he's got a wrench. We're good.
he's
You
doing
know,
something.
I could fix that later. He he's just happy he's turning. And not too long ago, I had him. We were when I took my clutch master cylinder out, I was like, I had him take out the last 2 bolts that mounted it in there and pull it out. And it was so excited. It was the proudest moment of
Yeah,
his life. I took out the master cylinder. Yeah, he was so excited. He showed it to
right.
his mom. He got his hands all greasy and dirty. It was awesome. It was a good time.
It's
Oh
fun.
yeah,
It's good
gotta
stuff.
pass
I
that
mean,
stuff on.
you learn so much because you're actually doing it instead of watching it on TV or reading it in a book.
I thought I was
You
getting
know.
another visitor there for a second.
Uh oh.
No, we're all right. Uh,
But yeah, definitely
yeah,
pass on the knowledge.
always,
If we don't
always.
pass on the
Or
knowledge, then you know the thing that we love right now is just going to die, and we're not going to have we're not going to have anybody to pass it on to.
right,
We're gonna we're it's gonna be one of those dystopian futures where everybody there's only like a handful of mechanics, and if you buy a car, you throw it away when it breaks, and then you buy
yeah.
a new car.
That's
No,
that's not where we want to be. That's definitely not
and
where we want to be.
no, keep that car going for 20, 30 years, get your money's worth out of it, and then if you want to go buy a new car, go out and buy a new car.
Right.
Otherwise, keep that car running for another 20 or 30 years.
So, Marty, where do you think Fiat's going to be in the future? Do you think that they're going to keep falling off, or do you think that at some point they're going to start gaining some speed?
I think if they stay where they're at and they don't try to spread themselves thin, like by trying to get into the small SUV market, I think if they stay where they're at, there's always going to be somebody who wants a small hatchback or a small car, and because eventually, especially with their little roadster, eventually they're going to be the only sports cars.
Right.
I mean,
Right. That's one of the things that I love about them. I would love to see them maybe expand, um, instead of trying to do like the bigger, the 500L, 500X. Maybe if they went for that tuner coupe, like the Civic Si market. If they, I think that would be a good spot for them to expand, because you're right. I don't think it's going to be much longer that nobody else is. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 companies is going to be making fun sports cars, or sporty
yeah,
cars in general. And I
yeah,
think that they'll wind up being that only, like, oh, you want a fun hatchback? Well, you have to buy the Fiat 500 because
yeah.
that's it. You know. All
Your
right.
options are the Fiat 500 or the Fiat 500 Abarth. There
Yeah,
you go.
and that's it.
Pick,
That's it.
choose wisely. You know what I
I
mean?
you know Yeah, definitely. And then when it comes to, it's I don't think they're ever gonna stop making the Miata. So I think it's gonna wind up being, do you want the Miata or do you want the Fiat Miata? I mean the 124 Spider. Like
Right,
it's
exactly.
gonna be your.
And
I
if
think right now that
and
is your only options.
I think what Fiat would be doing if they were smart is basically say, hey, we're the same exact car as the Miata, we're a little bit cheaper. If they offered that car for
Could.
just a touch cheaper, I guarantee you they could steal that market from the Miata and explode that market for themselves and sell a whole bunch more units, even if it's $1,000 cheaper or
Yeah.
$2,000 cheaper.
Well, right now, what Fiat's like big thing is, right, is they've got the 124 Spider Abarth, and their basic thing is yes, we're the same as the Miata, but ours is faster and our suspension is better. That's their biggest thing, because they Abarth retuned the suspension, and then they put the 1.4 liter turbo engine in it, and
Mhm.
it is a little bit it's a little bit faster than the turbo MX-5, and
But
that's basically what's up. Hey Jace, what's up, man?
but what is the aftermarket for
That's
the
where
for the two cars? Because
that's where it's at.
if the Miata has more to offer, then people are going to go for the Miata over the faster, better handling car because they can do more with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I was bringing up earlier. Hey, baby girl. That's what I was bringing up earlier, because basically the Fiat parts are crazy expensive. Head inside, you two kooks.
Daddy,
Uh,
I love you.
I love you too. All right, all right, all right.
And now you're wearing a hat. Good
No, the
job.
dogs are inside. Yeah. No, I'm wearing. Oh, leave me alone about my hat. I decided not to wear one.
Don't worry, Freddie hasn't jumped on yet.
Yeah, no one's made fun of me yet, so it's okay.
But yeah,
Hey,
I think if Fiat was to get a bigger aftermarket for their stuff, they'd
right.
probably be able to sneak that market out from the Miata, the MX-5.
Right, well, because that's like the only thing that sucks about it, right? Is that in order to, like, if you want to do the exhaust and you want to do the intake and stuff like that, that stuff is ridiculously more expensive for no reason whatsoever.
And
I
there's
will
not
say
as
that,
much.
right, there's not as much. I will say this though, is that the Japanese tuner versus the Euro tuner, where like the Japanese tuner you can do more for cheaper. The Euro tuner, you get a hell of a lot more out of what's stock on the car, because you can. Oh
Right.
my God, you got to be kidding me right now. Get out of here! Give me that! Go away!
You're welcome.
Ugh. Sorry, everybody. You know, kids. Uh, but you get. I mean, when you're talking like when you put a tune on the 500 of Barth, you go from 160 to 200 horsepower with
Right.
just your basic plug and play tune. Boom,
Which
done.
is which is a good jump for
It's a huge
just the
jump.
two.
It's a huge jump. They've got good sized turbochargers on them. They're made by Garrett. They can handle a little bit.
Right, exactly. Mazda owns the aftermarket for that market, I guess you would
Right.
say.
Yeah, for the small roadster market, I mean, it's all Mazda Miata. And as soon as there was a new Miata coming out, everybody was jumping on that. Oh, jeez, shut up. Gosh, you're all terrible people, you know that? Ugh.
Oh, but we love you.
Whereas you look at like the Fiat 124 came out and it was like, is it going to be a good car? Is it not going to be a good car? Oh, it's actually a Miata. Is it better than the Miata? Is it not as good as Miata? Should we make parts for it? Are people going to like it? And it's definitely going to
And
take a little while.
and it was already behind the curve because of the fact that nobody knows anything about it.
Right, right,
You've got the Miata that's been around forever. People have been racing it forever. People have been doing this to it, customizing it here, doing this, doing that. And the Fiat comes out, and everyone's like, okay, I've never heard about this car. That's kind of cool. And then everyone's like, oh, it's basically the same thing as a Miata. Like, oh, that's awesome. What's the aftermarket for it? Like, nearly non-existent. Oh, that's
yeah,
cool. It can stay over
right.
there.
Well, I guess I'll buy
it
the
can,
Miata
it
because
can
I'm going to do this to it and I'm going to do that to it. And I'm no,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
no, absolutely, absolutely. That's why I think that Fiat really, really, really needs to do a in-house aftermarket parts
But
type deal.
do
They
they
need to do
do
something.
do they have like a racing team like a lot of these other car companies have?
I don't
Like
know if Fiat has
Toyota
a
has.
specific racing team. Yeah. No, I don't.
Toyota has the TRD, Nissan has Nismo. All these other car companies have a basically where they develop their performance parts on actual race cars and do all their testing and stuff like that in actual races, and then come back and bring it on and put it on their actual cars. I don't think Fiat has anything like that.
No,
I
I don't
mean,
think so.
they've got they've got a couple of brands that have kind of stuff like that. But I mean, are they gonna are they gonna be able to move that stuff over there? Because I mean, they've got Maserati, and
Right. But
a lot of their parts are Ferrari parts. But I mean, how much can you put onto a Fiat from any of those other car companies?
yeah, I hope the Fiat's growing on you, dude. You've been driving it around. I'm telling you, you spent Jason has spent maybe 10 minutes behind the wheel of my Fiat, and he's already starting to grow on him. You know what's funny is that
Okay, all right, Presty. See you later, dude.
yeah, later, bro. Um, a lot of people do say, the Miata is a feminine car. It's a more female car. Statistically speaking, sir, more females buy Mustangs than guys do, and more guys buy Miatas than females do. Bet you didn't know that. That's a true fact. You could Google it. Fact.
You can Google it.
Boom.
But
So
I mean,
technically, the Mustang's a girl car.
do you think that Fiat would end up trying to take some of the Mopar technology and bring it over to their Fiats and stuff like that, or do you think that they'll stay in house with their Fiats and let Mopar do whatever they're doing with their stuff?
Well, actually, they already have. They are
Have they?
Mopar is already integrated into Fiat. So the oil filters for my Abarth made by Mopar. My the warranty for it is a Mopar
Well,
warranty.
so what
There's
I'm saying is,
Chrysler parts all over that thing. I mean, honestly, it may be an Italian car. It's a Chrysler. It's a
what I'm
Chrysler. You
saying
pop the
is,
hood. There's so much
if you
Chrysler in
could,
it.
if you were able to take some Mopar parts, and cross-reference them, and then use them on the Fiat,
Well,
could you get some of those parts that you're needing a lot cheaper than having to go aftermarket? You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that a lot of the guy because the Dodge Dart has the Fiat 2.4 liter and the Fiat 1.4 turbo engine. You're starting to see crossover there as the Dart sort of wanes and comes back and forth in popularity.
It's
There seems to be some
it's
people out there that really like the Dart, and some people are kind of on the Dart. They never did go with a full-blown SRT4 Dart, which is what they should have done. Um, I mean, they
I
should have.
don't.
They should have went SRT4 Dart.
It would have been interesting.
Jason doesn't like my Mustang comments.
Why does he have a Mustang?
No, he's just a big Mustang fan. Jason,
Oh, okay.
that's who sat in with us last week.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I got you.
Uh, so yeah, I wish they would. I don't know that they're going to go any further with it, or what they're going to do, what their future plans
Because
are,
I
as
I think
those kind of markets.
if they want to take that market that they've got, and if they want to stay alive, really, is either integrate those Mopar racing, the pedigree for the Mopar racing and stuff like that into their cars, or just start their own racing division to where they can get some performance stuff out, because that's what's really killing them right now, is not being able to have that aftermarket.
Right,
Because
right. And I would like to see.
I guarantee you,
Go ahead.
there'd be a lot more done to your car if you had an aftermarket, a better aftermarket for it.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean,
You
there
know what I
are
mean?
companies out there that make stuff, but if I was able to, because like for me particularly, and it's a weird thing to be at, because like I have my race car, and so like that's where I'm putting my money and my parts. But and my Fiat's my daily driver, and so I actually am concerned about preserving the warranty just in case, Lord
Right.
forbid, something happens. I depend on the car and need to, right? So I need to preserve that. If there was a way, like how Toyota did with TRD Scion stuff, I could go to the Fiat dealership and say, I would like to put that intake on my car, and also no warranty issues there, and just
Hmm.
put put it on. I would like that exhaust, and I would like that tune, and I would like to run it on E85 and just and still be under warranty. It'd be totally fine. Yeah, there'd be a hell of a lot more done than my Fiat. I can tell you that right now. Right
And
now.
if it was cheaper to do it too,
Yeah. Well,
because
even if the aftermarket parts were a little bit cheaper right now, I still wouldn't, just because I am trying to preserve
right.
the
But what I'm
warranty
saying
stuff.
is
But
for other people, the same parts that you can get for say if you were gonna work on the Miata and beef up the Miata, those same parts that you're gonna get for the Miata are far more expensive for the Fiat, just for the fact that it's a Fiat, and Fiat doesn't really like having other people with their parts. You
yeah,
know
well,
what I
it's
mean?
just a matter of. I think it's just honestly just a matter of time. Like you said, if they stick to the road that they're on, right, where they keep making the fun hatchback, they keep making the fun roadster, and like I said, they need to expand into the uh Jesus, my brain just took a fart. The Civic arena. That's what they I think they really
What
need
did
to
I do?
expand into. I don't know. I just see black now. Hey,
I don't know
I
what the
thought you
heck
put your
happened.
I thought you did like the thumb over the camera and were like, hey, no one watched me kiss my wife or something. I don't know. I wasn't paying
No,
attention.
I was the camera's over here. I was playing over here, and I don't know what the heck happened. No, we're fixed apparently, but
Yeah, we're all right. We're all right. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. But like, if what would be interesting to see is if they took the Dodge Dart and maybe did an SRT4 version with that 2.4 liter that Fiat made, and then Fiat do the Dodge Dart but in a coupe, and just like the coupe would be the Fiat and the four door would be the Dodge, and then do the same SRT4, but maybe you could call it the Abarth
yeah,
if you
I
want to,
mean,
and get that crossover of parts going. It would make it a hell of a lot better for the U.S. market,
for
particularly.
for for Fiat, I mean, other than the 500 and the Roadster, what what all do they offer?
So they've got the 500, of course, the 500L, which is a four-door version, um, and they kind of squared out the body. It looks really weird. And then they did the 500X, which is the subcompact SUV, and
Mhm.
basically it looks like a jack. It looks like someone put a lift kit on a 500. That's what I'm.
Okay,
That's just what it
so
looks
I
like.
mean,
It's a
so
little bit bigger. It's
basically,
bigger. It's four-door, but it just looks like they lifted a 500, put two extra doors on.
so they've really only got a handful of products. I mean, heck,
Yeah,
Chevy has more SUVs than Fiat has car lines.
right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, if they really wanted to, they could experiment and, like you said, make a two door version of the Dart, or on that platform make a two door version and turn it into a nice little fun coupe or something like that.
Yeah, and just keep. I would think if they go down that route of being, hey, we are your fun car company. If you want a fun car, come here to Fiat. We give you the
Hmm.
Roadster. We give you the hatchback. We get you the coupe. You know,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
I I would say that would be their way to go, to where they're going to nail down that niche market. And then too, like the small hatchback kind of brings in this really weird crowd of people. No offense to anybody, okay? I'm not saying you guys are all weirdos. I mean, you are, but it's okay to be weird. Uh, where like these people, they fall in love. It's not like that, and these are people with 1.2 liters and non-turbos that just they fall in love with just having this neat little hatchback, and they do all these weird little things to it, and they color match different stuff, and they do stickers and body. I've seen like the stick on like little wind up toy thing on the back, and like the eyelashes and mustaches and all kinds of weird. Like the car itself just has this weird X factor that it's hard to explain to people, and people don't understand until they drive. Like until you've spent some time in the car, then it's like, dude, I get it. I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
Right.
Hatchback love. That's what
But
I'm saying. It's just,
yeah, like you said, if they decided to brand themselves as the fun little car company, I think that they would create their own market because everybody's going to SUVs, and people are going to get bored of SUVs, and it's going to happen,
Yeah.
especially when car companies are coming out with 4 and 5 different versions of SUVs.
Right, and
It's going to
that's
get
where I think
old,
a
and
lot of the
people are going to get fatigued, and they're going to
Mhm.
be like, all right, I need something other than an SUV to look at. Oh, okay, I'll go out and buy me a nice little fun little 2-seater.
Yeah, you wind up in the look. I don't know how many times I've at work parking can be an issue where I work in the city, and I don't know how many times people are like, "Oh, there's nowhere to park," and I'm like, "Whoop! What about this spot right here? Like no
Yeah,
one else can fit there, Rob." Like I know.
but I can.
Yeah, it's mine. Or when I need to dip in and out of traffic, I'm late for work, and I'm not the type of person that's going to go down the shoulder, because that's a little more illegal than zipping in and out of traffic. I'd much rather, be able to zip my way, squeeze in and out of traffic, and wreak some havoc.
I mean, yeah. I think, like you said, that fun little sports car, fun little car market would be perfect fit for the um for the Fiat guys, and then they already have the bigger sedans and sports American sports cars with Dodge, and then they've got the trucks, and I think they've got SUVs over there with Ram. I don't remember if they decided to move the SUVs over there too, or if it's just the trucks. But I mean, they've got all of that, and then they've got their luxury cars with Maserati. So I mean, they've got a great spread of vehicles.
Yeah,
It's just they for some of their vehicles, they haven't been in America for long enough to get that name recognition or to get um, that fan base. You know,
right. Right, and I think in the meantime, I think that Fiat's actually doing a really, I mean, because they're counting, Fiat as just the Fiat brand, and when you take a look at what Fiat has done with the Fiat Chrysler automotive group that they've built, I think they're doing excellent. They branched off Ram
yeah,
as its own truck division. They've branched off Jeep as this is our SUV division, and we're going to do Jeeps the Jeep way and just keep it Jeep, and people
hmm
love that. And then you've got Dodge where you've got your big muscle car and you've got your comfortable sedan based on the big muscle car, and you've got your small sedan and and
hmm
and then your minivan, so like it's your and then you got your Chrysler, which is slightly more I would guess luxurious, I guess would be the thing to say
well,
there than they are I mean over the Dodge lineup they seem to be slightly more luxurious, but even
I guess it'd
still.
be like I guess it would be more like the Lincoln to Ford, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, they've kind of gone the Lincoln route. I just think they have a really good spread of not only brands, but how they've spread their brands out. They're not really stepping on their toes. They don't have too many copycat cars,
Right.
which is something that GM got in trouble with, way back in the day when they just copied every single one of their cars for each brand. And they've got their little niche market brand with Fiat. They've got their niche, they've got their kind of exotic brand with Maserati and with Alfa, and that I honestly I don't think that they're going anywhere. I don't think that they're going to give up Fiat inside the United States, and if they stayed in there, if they keep Fiat in its own lane where it's the fun car company, I don't
Yeah.
see like I just don't see them completely and maybe that's just a little bit of a fanboy in me because I
No,
became
I
way
mean,
bigger of a fan of Fiat than I ever thought I was going to be. I'll be honest. I didn't think I was
as
like I
as
liked the car. I didn't think I was ever going to love the car. I just didn't.
as somebody who really never gave a crap about Fiat ever, I honestly I see where you're coming from. Like they as their umbrella of car companies, they're doing great. I mean, heck, Dodge was one of the um, largest growing market shares for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
They've been doing huge things with Dodge. They brought Alfa Romeo over, which people said would never happen.
yeah.
You know, people have been begging for Alfa Romeo to come over forever, and everyone's like, "That's never going to happen." And then Fiat goes, "Well, okay, how about we try it out?" Heck, I've seen a couple of those Julias. If they weren't $72,000, they wouldn't be a bad car. They just need
You
to
can
come
get
down
the
on price just a touch.
you can get the 2-liter turbos. for a decent price, $40,000 range for the 2-liter turbos. And I mean, I drove one as a courtesy car for a few days. They're they're phenomenal. Like you would talk about
They're
like a
good looking.
good
They're a good
priced
looking car.
like if you're looking for like a luxury car and you don't want to spend $70,000, honestly, the Giulia was, I mean, and it had so many options inside of it. It would take me an hour to list them, but I was just
Right.
impressed at the quality of the leather, the fact there was real wood on the dashboard. Like that was like, whoa, I'm in a fancy car right now. There's some real wood shit in here. Somebody
Yeah.
carved this out of a tree and put it into my dashboard right now. Like, what is going on? Got a heated steering wheel. Who has a heated? I mean, I guess it's like more common than I thought, but I was like, dude, steering wheel's heated. The seats are air conditioned. Like, it was just really, really cool. And then the 2-liter turbo that was in it, and it's making STI horsepower, 300 horsepower range.
Yeah.
And it was the first ever 8-speed automatic I'd ever driven, and that was a neat drive because it would just rip through gears because there's so many of them. It's just
And
like
you
da,
never
da,
feel
da, 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 and you're just gone. And it was just, man, was that tons of fun. And it was rear-wheel drive too, which was,
Yeah.
it's not some 4-cylinder
Like I
front-wheel
said,
drive.
I
It's
mean,
rear-wheel drive. It's a cool car.
So Fiat, I think they may have underperformed for a little bit, but I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
I don't think they're going anywhere. And I will say this, I think one of the things that hurt Fiat's current sales is that there hasn't been a large demand for their cars as far as in the used car market, right? So like when I bought my Abarth, let's see, I've had it for about 2 years now. So when I bought my Abarth, I bought it at about half the price of a new Abarth. And it had 30,000 miles on it. Like I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer right there. Like, yeah, we'll go for it. And I mean, I was concerned about the longevity, so I bought the warranty. But
I wonder what kind of retention rates those cars have. Like how many people buy it and then turn around and sell it after a year or 2 or 2 years.
Zero deaths.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was talking to. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say if there's a huge turnaround on those cars, then yeah, they're gonna be crazy cheap in the aftermarket. I mean, in the second hand, there's an abundance of them. But if there's not an abundance of them, then that's why there's gonna be so many. I mean, then they're gonna be crazy expensive, and they're gonna hold their value well. So I mean, it's one of those things of I wonder how many people are turning around and selling them because they found something different, or they bought it, tested it out, didn't like it, and went and traded it in on something else.
Well, when I was talking to the dealership when I bought mine, and I was asking why it was, and they said basically that they don't get a lot of demand for used Fiats. When people come in to buy that car, they want to buy the newest one. They want to buy, they want, either they're coming in for, the end of year sale to buy a brand new car, with the little sales incentives, or they're coming in because they want the newest model. And so the one that I bought, it had just under 30,000 miles on it, and it was 3 years old. So, I mean, it wasn't, and it's not like it was sitting around for very long. I wanted to get the stick shift, so it took them a little bit to find one, and they had to ship it over from New York. But yeah, they said there's not a huge demand. They were actually trying to get me to buy the automatic one that they had on the lot, and I was like, no. Like, don't you want to test drive it? Like, no.
I know what
really?
I want.
Like, I need a stick shift. Yes, please. And they're like, but the automatic has an extra gear. Like, that's nice. I don't care.
So
I need that to be stick shift, and it's a phenomenal car. It's just phenomenal.
So I mean, I mean, I don't think they're doing as poorly as that article says they are.
No, and I don't think that they're. I mean, and this is maybe a little anecdotal because it's my personal experience, but I don't think that its reliability is that big of an issue. I mean, you have to remember, like I have a 2013 Abarth. So it's really it's not necessarily the very first generation, but it is in that, kind of category of first generations, at least for the Abarths. It's in the first generations, not for the 500, but for the Abarth it is. And I'll be honest, I've put 46,000 miles on the car by myself. I'm behind the wheel for 46,000 miles on the thing, and I've had one major breakdown. And like I said in my other video, it was right after we had that negative 60-degree weather. And so I really don't think that you can blame Fiat for that. The shift linkage broke. It had a rubber boot around. It's like a rubber, thing around the ball joint for the shift linkage there, and that's what broke, and it popped the shift linkage off. And I just yeah, that was kind of a major break, but it wasn't. It was covered under warranty. I had a courtesy car. It wasn't a big deal. They towed the car for me and all that. I wasn't stranded. I just don't blame Fiat for that one because of the extreme weather we had that I was driving the car in. I mean,
Well, my thing about this, about the reliability issues are, it's 2019. If you want to know how reliable a vehicle is, you have it in your hand. You can Google all sorts of reviews and everything like that, and there's gonna be people who are bad mouthing it because they're fanboys for another company. But there's also going to be people like you who are driving the car and being pleasantly surprised with how reliable they are, and you can weed out the ones who are giving bad reviews just because they want to give bad reviews, with the people who are going, wow, this is a lot better than I thought it was. Had no issues with it. I mean, look at my 96 F-150. Back when I first bought that truck, people were like, oh, it's a Ford, it's going to fall apart, blah, blah, blah. People are, everyone's telling me that it's a garbage vehicle. I put $300 into it the 13 years that I owned it.
right.
Well, I probably a little bit more than $300, but I mean, I replaced a starter, I replaced an alternator, I replaced an idle air controller, and wheel bearings, and a fuel pump. I mean, literally, those are things that go out after 100,000 miles anyway. And this thing had 230,000 miles on it. Other than that, I had no major issues with the truck.
Right. Right, and even the people that get these cars and that have issues with them, because they are out there.
Yeah.
Even those people will still tell you, yeah, I'd still buy another one. The car's just too much fun to drive. I'd still buy another one. And I will say this, when the car is like these cars are, where they're fun to drive and they kind of egg you on, you can take that corner a little bit faster, right? You could pass this guy. You just press the sport button and just give me a little bit extra boost. We'll just fly past him. It'll be tons. And so that kind of has to that gets into it too, because I'm not always just driving this thing at cruise control. And let's be honest, I'm mostly driving it not on the cruise control, and I'm just, giving her hell. So
you have a good time with
engine and transmission and clutch, they're fine. Totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's like I was saying, you can find this stuff out. It's not like 20 years ago or 30 years ago where a car would be out for 5 or 6 years before you start finding out about serious issues. If there's a serious issue with some of these cars, you find out about it yesterday.
Right.
You find out about it before it actually happens,
right,
because everyone's talking about it.
And you can track it in the Consumer Reports, where you'll see the earlier Fiat 500s when they first came to the States had issues, and then now they don't. The earlier Fiat 500 Abarths, like mine, had issues, and now they don't. They've, and one of the things that I talked about a lot was how, you've got a company that basically made cars for Europe, for Western Europe, right? They're in Germany, they're in England, they're in France, they're in Italy, right? Then they bring them here to the United States. We have a much more diverse section of weather, road conditions, elevations. I mean, everything is way more to the extremes than this company's used to building for. And there's going to be those growing pains when you bring a car over here. It just is. And to me, it's how do you get out of those? How do you improve from those? And if you talk to somebody like who I've got a 2013 Abarth, and those were like the first generation of Barths that came over here. Yeah, I've got a few problems. I've had a few little issues. A lot of it's been basic maintenance stuff that tends to wear out, that I expected to wear out because of the harsh road conditions, the harsh weather I drive it in.
Right.
And honestly,
And
I don't
and a
see
sign
those
of a
as,
good company, is how they take that information. You
yeah,
know,
because you don't see those issues with the newer parts. Their
right.
maintenance stuff isn't wearing out as quickly. They had a
They
wheel
found
bearing
out.
issues with the rear wheel bearings. They've
Oh,
replaced
we
those. They've
can't use
figured out.
this. We can't use this piece over here because it wears out differently than what in Italy or parts of Europe. Oh well,
Right.
we can't do this. We can't do this because we need to tune this a little bit differently because the elevation changes are so much more drastic over here than over there in parts of Europe. So it's one of those things of, if you're a good car company, you take those things and you learn from them instead of just going, no, it's your fault. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. Right. And
No,
you can
you
see
broke
it.
the
I mean,
car.
you pop the hood on a new Abarth versus my Abarth, and it looks, I mean, they're the same engine, but it looks very
Yeah.
different under there. They've redesigned coolant systems. They've redesigned the intake systems. The turbocharging systems have all been redesigned, and little stuff like the headlights and the upgraded bushings for like the struts, and they've
Mm-hmm.
improved the quality of their wheel bearings. That was one of the things that I had go out after that really harsh weather, is I had a wheel bearing go out. So like that went out, and then the shift linkage, and it was like, okay, I just drove you through probably some of the harshest weather. And
Mm-hmm.
my SUV had some issues too after that really bad weather. Yeah, it was a bunch of people did. There was problems. That's a harsh winter to drive through. And when I took it to Fiat, they're like, "Oh yeah, well we actually had an improvement for your wheel bearings, so we're not going to charge you for those. And then your shift linkage obviously covered under warranty, so no problem there." And it was just like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Right.
And
Well,
like,
I mean, like you were saying about temperature changes. I remember reading, I think it was a year ago, 2 years ago. They had the London Marathon. They had a bunch of people collapsing and fainting because it was extreme heats, and then they converted it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, and it was 78 degrees. So their
like,
extreme
oh,
heat is like spring, beginning summer weather.
right,
And so you get some of these places around, especially around by me, where it gets into 120 degrees.
right.
That's a whole different ball game for some of these cars.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you can't compare them to cars that have been in the United States for decades, because they just haven't been here. They just haven't, they did a little stint and then they went back home and they said, yeah, screw that market, we don't need it. So it was just,
Well, it wasn't even that they
it's
said
one of those
screw that
things.
market. It wasn't even that they said screw that market. It was, they had issues and people are like, oh, we're having issues with your car and they won't allow you to fix it. And they're just like, fine, okay, we got it. You don't want us over here. Cool, bye. And they left. And then I don't think Fiat would have ever showed back up over here if they didn't buy Chrysler, or I should say merge with Chrysler.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I agree with you. I don't think they would have either. They were doing great in Europe. When they came out with the 500, the 500 sold so well over there. According to Jeremy Clarkson, there was waiting lines to buy a standard Abarth, or not Abarth, just
Yeah.
a standard Fiat 500. There was a waiting list. Like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
You're on a waiting list for a $12,000 car? Yep. Oh, okay. That's weird.
Usually there's a waiting list for like the the high end sports cars. What the
Yeah,
what's
because they
that's
only
going
made
on?
like two of them, but Fiat was like, we just can't manufacture enough of these cars. Like, we're getting there. We're opening more plants. We're getting more cars made. So it was, yeah. Jeremy Clarkson put it as the car that saved Fiat, because it was so popular in Europe, in particular Italy. A lot, it stole a lot of that Mini Cooper market. So it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
But man,
Yeah,
what a neat car. What a good and honestly, in my opinion, good car company. Good car company. I like them.
they seem like they're um what's the word I'm looking for? They're finding out what's wrong with their stuff and they're fixing it and upgrading it, and they're doing pretty dang good. I mean, like I said, they're they're doing all the right things in all the right places with a lot of their with a lot of their car stuff. Yes, their Fiat line might be underperforming, but they don't have name recognition yet. Give them a couple of
Right.
years, let people start realizing that, oh, you know what, Fiat's actually doing pretty decent. I guarantee you, because I mean, out of the how long has the Giulia been around? They've been around for what?
Maybe in the United States, maybe 2 years, maybe three.
Right. I've
Like
seen
not
all
very
of
long.
I've seen all of three.
Yeah, I think I've seen maybe 4 or 5 total,
Right. So
not
I mean,
including going to the dealership where they're
once
sitting
you
there and
start
they're
seeing those,
gorgeous.
because I saw a white one today, it looked awesome. Um, once you start seeing those things more often, because obviously all these other car companies are getting rid of their sedans, you're going to start seeing that these smaller name companies are stealing that market share, and then they're going to have name recognition because they're the only name for that market.
Yeah. Well,
And
the Alpha brand in particular, they're kind of coming for. I mean, they've only got. I think Alpha right now, besides the 4C, the Giulia, and the Stevio, I think that's it. I think they have three
I think
cars
so.
total here in the United States.
Mhm.
And you know, I would say I could definitely see Alpha kind of expanding their car line a little bit and diving into stealing a lot of that BMW market. I could see them stealing a lot of Mercedes, lower end markets and really taking a lot of that stuff away. Um,
I can see them being the Italian Cadillacs.
yeah. Oh yeah, big time, big time.
Because well,
I think
from
they need
from what I heard,
slightly more crossover with Dodge. Like Dodge and
from what
Chrysler
I
need to
yeah
crossover
yeah
slightly more.
yeah. Well, what I've heard was Cadillac is getting rid of the CTS and the ATS, and they're
So what do
going
they
to
make?
like the CT4 or something like that.
Okay, and
And
that's it.
so instead of having the CTS and the ATS, they're going to have one car that's kind of
It's
in
not quite
between
this one
both
and
of
not
them.
quite that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Well, a lot of that, they're like, oh man, the market share is going this way, and it's like, well, if you guys only make the one kind of car, that's just you're narrowing us down. We've got no choice now. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
So I mean, I can see Alpha snagging a lot of that Cadillac market because you know they're they're nice, they're somewhat luxury, but they're not crazy expensive luxury,
hmm
and they're not like bottom tier uh, sedans to where everyone can have one. So it's one of those things where people are going to strive to get one, and it's gonna. I can see when everybody moves to SUVs, if Alfa Romeo stays true to itself and keeps the Giulia around, they'll steal that market.
and
You know.
also, if anyone from Alfa Romeo is listening to this, your performance model of the Giulia, the quadrifig, the quadrifig, the quadrifig.
Yeah,
You need to make it easier to say, okay? Like I can't
it
say
is so easy for them
quadrifig.
to say. You got to remember,
Quadrifigiola. Like I can't say that. My tongue doesn't make those motions. There's a whole
it's
lot of vowels in there. It's hard.
it's easy
We
for
got to
them to
shorten that
say.
down. You need
It's
the
easy for
Julia,
them to.
and the quadrifigiolo's got the clover, the four-leaf the clover on there. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, man. I'm sorry. I'm butchering that. It's got the four-leaf clover on there. Can we just get the Julia like clover? Can we just be like,
What about
can we,
the Julia supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
that's way too much. It's a big mouthful. It's a
Well,
mouthful.
see, they can't say that over there because they're not used to saying it. So we win.
Too many consonants. If we just get the something, just make it a little bit easier for me. Just what? do us Americans a favor, and when you bring over that crazy twin turbocharged V6 Julia, just call it an SRT. Just make it easier for us. You own Dodge. I know you could do that. Just the Julia SRT.
So,
and everyone would go,
okay, so
ooh, I like that.
if the Challenger is going to go to twin turbo, is there going to be an SRT 8 version? Because that's not an 8 anymore.
No, it would just be an SRT. There would be
Yeah.
there'd be no number. So I'm saying,
But
you
they
could just slap the SRT
they do
badge.
SRT 8 on everything. That's
Right,
their
that's
thing,
just
is
gonna
the
go away.
SRT 8
Yeah, but
or
that's
the
just they're
SRT
just gonna
4.
they're just gonna chop the 8 off. They're gonna take that little 8 and they're gonna go. It's gonna go away. It's just gonna say
Oh.
SRT.
So
Because I mean,
do you think they're going to stick that into like the SRT Jeeps?
maybe.
How many
Something like that.
vehicles do you think that twin turbo V6 is going to get stuck into?
Oh my gosh. Once they put it in the Challenger, oh man, I don't know. That's a powerful, like, Alfa Romeo's twin turbo V6 is powerful. We're talking,
Right.
500-600 horsepower range. It is powerful.
So I mean, imagine what else they could stick that into and make a performance vehicle. Put it in the Gladiator.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would like, yes,
Put it
please. Yes,
You know what I
please.
mean?
Well, isn't Ram Rebel? Aren't they doing a T-Rex, right? To keep up with the
Are they?
Raptor, right? Yeah.
Well, I know they had the Ram Runner for a while.
Right, and then they did the Ram Rebel, which was like they were off-road packages, but they weren't quite like that Raptor level. So the
Yeah.
Ram Rebel is getting, well, it's not necessarily a T-Rex, but the lettering is TRX. It's quite literally T-Rex. And so yeah, the Ram Rebel is doing that. Now I could see that. I could see the twin turbo 600 horsepower Ram Rebel. I like it.
That could be
for it. It'd be interesting.
That could be.
I mean, some people are still going to want the Hemi. They're not going to drop the SRT8 badge. Is going to become a little more exclusive. We had this conversation last week. That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen. Is this going to be an option? Let's be like, well, you can get the Challenger SRT8 if you want the V8, but the SRT is just as powerful. Yeah,
but you're going to spend an extra $20,000 for it.
You get the SRT, and that's just as powerful, and it's a little bit better on gas because it's a V6 turbochargers.
Oh.
And it goes
choo-choo-choo. It's got the spoolie boys. Oh man.
What they need to do is they need to take that Alpha 2-liter turbo, that 300 horsepower 2-liter turbo that's in the regular Giulia, and they need to put that. Hey, move your cat's butt. Thank you.
Can you move now? Come on.
They need to take that that engine that they have in the Giulia, that 2-liter turbo, it's like 285, right? They put that in the Dodge Dart. Now we're talking. I mean, you have to give it an all-wheel drive system off a Jeep, but you put that in the Dodge Dart, SRT4.
Or make a two-door version of it and make it a nice little.
I make a Fiat.
Yeah. How about that?
How about that?
See, like I said, they've got the setup and they've got the foundation to be a great company. It's just they don't have the name recognition, and the markets are changing so crazy right now that they're not sure what they want to do.
That's the thing. I think that's the hardest part probably for a lot of the big companies is, do you chase the market trend, or do you say, no, this is the car company that we are, and even though the market trend's going this way, there's still going to be people that want this, and this is what we're going to be the only people to offer this. So if you want this, you have to come to us. Nobody else will have this. I've always been of the mindset, as a tuner, as a car enthusiast, petrol head, gear monkey guy, that's the car companies that I like. Is the car companies that say, no, this is who we are, and if you want this, we make this, because we know, even though this is the big market's going this way, and then it's going to go back that way, and then they're going to scurry down here, and then they're going to go up here, then they're going to go back down here. We're gonna split
You don't.
and come back together.
So what you're telling me is you don't like Mitsubishi anymore?
I don't like Mitsubishi anymore now. I stopped officially
Alex.
liking Mitsubishi in 2005. No, I don't like new Mitsubishi. I don't like what Mitsubishi became. I really don't. I mean, I love 90s Mitsubishi, 1990 to 1999 Mitsubishi. I love it. I love 2000 to 2005 Evos, but that's it. I mean,
So, what's your take on this new Evo 11 that's supposedly coming out?
I don't know. What are they going to base it on? The Sentra? Or I don't know. Nissan bought up Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi's been talking about doing a Lancer based off the Sentra. Now they're talking about bringing back an Evo, which seems to be legitimate. I, I don't know.
Do you
Like,
think
to be
that if
honest, I just
they
don't know.
do you think if the Evo does good, they'll bring back an actual Eclipse, or do you think that they'll just keep that as a crossover?
No, they've ruined the Eclipse name. It's just completely ruined. The Eclipse name is ruined. In 2000, when they went to that V6 front-wheel drive as the performance model of the Eclipse, it really was like, oh. And then they killed off and then they did, instead of correcting themselves and going, okay, what everybody liked about the Eclipse was that it was all-wheel drive, um, they said, hey, here's a new V6 front-wheel drive Eclipse. And everyone went, oh. And like that,
Oh,
I mean, that fourth generation Eclipse has like a following. And there's certain they change the body styling like year to year with that car. There
right.
and there's certain years of that car that look really good, and there's certain years of that car that look really bad. And it just wasn't the V6 they put in. It was big and it was cool, but it was front wheel drive.
Right.
So it was super nose heavy, and it just didn't.
It didn't have it wasn't a fun car.
Right. Well, I guess it's kind of a fun car. It's got some fun aspects to it, but it just wasn't there. Like, name the amount of people that sit around and dream about a front wheel drive V6 car.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I mean,
it's
oh wait, no, never mind. Those aren't even V6. But go ahead.
had they taken that last generation Eclipse and at very least just given it all-wheel drive, they could have kept it a V6 if they would have just given it the all-wheel drive system out of the Evo. Just that alone would have saved the Eclipse. And now that they have the Eclipse Cross, which honestly looks like they hired the guy that designed the Aztec. I mean, honestly,
Oh,
it looks like an Aztec. I swear to God, it looks like an Aztec.
why
It's
do you
just
think?
ugh. Did you just throw
I
up
was
a
gonna
little bit
say
in your mouth?
no.
Just
I was
throw up
gonna
a
say
little
why
bit
do you
in your
think
mouth a little bit.
Pontiac went out of business? Because they made the Aztec.
Yeah, it's not good.
It had nothing to do with any other reasons other than the Aztec.
It just, I don't know. That thing is just ugly, and it's small engine and it's hybrid systemed, and I don't know. I don't like them. I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Well, and you like we were saying earlier, a lot of these vehicles that Japanese companies are coming out with, they don't even sell in their country.
Right. They're coming out with
They,
specific American market cars, which is weird.
exactly.
Like,
And
we
it's
liked you
I don't
guys because of your Japanese stuff.
right. We liked your Japanese cars that you brought over here. We don't really care about the stuff that you go, oh, Americans like this. Here you go. It's like no, we don't actually. But
Yeah,
next
it's
next
kind of like they were like, well, Ford and Chevy sell the most in America, so maybe if we do what they do, and it's like, no, people buy you because you don't do what those guys did. And like they're always going to sell the most because of name recognition, just straight up name recognition. Absolutely nothing else is keeping Chevy alive right now other than name recognition. I don't
yeah.
care if you think that you like Chevy or you're a big Chevy fan, and I know I'm probably offending a bunch of people, which is fine. I'm okay with that. You like them because it's a name recognition.
Yeah.
Entirely 100%
True.
name recognition.
It's true. It's true. Like if someone was to say, "Hey, name me a name me a sports car. Your first thought in your head, other than your first thoughts in your head is going to be Mustang, Corvette, or Camaro. That's your
Yep.
first thoughts almost anytime you ask somebody.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
you ask somebody about a um, some kind of a Japanese import, and they couldn't tell you the first thing. They'd be like, "Oh, it's and then they name something off, and you're like, "That's not even Japanese, but nice try." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things it's ingrained in your head. It's a Ford or it's a Chevy, or now Dodge is kind of making a comeback. But I mean, for the most part, everyone thinks
Oh
of
yeah.
Ford or Chevy. It's
Right.
you,
It's name
you're
recognition.
gonna have to
Big
you're
brand.
gonna have to fight that. You're gonna have to fight that when you come over here, and a lot of these Japanese companies have done a good job of fighting it and
Oh
becoming
yeah.
big good names, and then they're like,
Specifically
well,
Toyota.
yeah, and then they're like, well, you know, this car didn't do as well as we thought, so we're just going to turn it into an SUV. Like, come on. Again, why take an existing car and turn it into something that it's not?
Right.
Corvette. I mean, theoretically,
Eclipse. Yeah. They
you know
the
what I
thing that
mean? Like,
killed me, like the death of the Eclipse was really bad because we went from '99. We had this cool all-wheel drive, four-cylinder turbo car. You go into 2000, and they say, "Hey guys, we have the Evo now. Also, you can get the Eclipse, but it's only going to be front-wheel drive, and it's only going to have a V6.
yep,
And there's not going to be all-wheel drive. There's going to be no turbo option. It's going to be really boring, actually, and that's going
yeah,
to be the end of it." And I was like, well, wait a minute. You had the 3000 GT as your V6, and it was twin turbo and all-wheel drive. You're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're not making that anymore either. Like,
yeah.
wait,
Well, I
what?
mean, you know what? That was like the GTO when the GTO came back out. It had the same engine as the Corvette, and hell, it in some of the testings that it did, it actually outperformed the Corvette in some horsepower numbers and some time attack stuff. So it was like one of those things of you can't do that. That's why it was only around for a couple of years, because it was doing better and it was way less. So people were like, I'm going to buy that instead of a Corvette.
Right.
So it's one of those things of we're gonna downplay the Eclipse a little bit because we got this brand new car. you know.
Well, here's the thing that kills me is that the whole time here in the United States, like the Eclipse wasn't is one of these Japanese American only cars because I mean, we are way off topic, but it was one of these Japanese America only cars because basically the Eclipse was the Evo, but it was a two-door hatchback. It was only available here in the United States. Um, nobody else had and it's the Evo 1 through 6 or whatever it was, one through 7. That's what the Eclipse was. It was the same drivetrain. It was the same everything. And so it was like, well, we're going to actually bring the Evo out now here in the United States. So we need to get rid of the Eclipse. But you didn't need to do that. You could have brought the Evo and had the Eclipse, and it would have been an amazingness of just destroying all tuner things with Mitsubishi. All things
Right?
tuner would be destroyed. I could have the Coupe Eclipse, I could have the four-door Evo, and I could make tons of power and go super fast, and it would be awesome. But no.
I don't know. It's
You got me off on
it's
a
whatever.
tangent. Yeah.
No, well, it's about an hour and a half anyway. Oh, hour
Oh
40.
man. Oh well, we're up there. We're up there. This is what happens when you get me talking about stuff I like.
See? Well, that's what we do. But I think I'm just gonna call it a day though.
Yeah, yeah. I'm tired. Now that we've mentioned how much time we've been online, I'm like, oh,
But yeah, so check us out on the Instagrams. Riding there with Rob, All Terrain
it's me.
Outlaws. Check out Rob's videos on All Terrain Outlaws YouTube channel. Hang out
Absolutely.
here, sit, and invite your friends, have more
Make
fun. I mean, I'd love to hear what other people's, you know, ideas about what Fiat is going to happen, or what's going to happen with
Yeah.
Fiat,
And,
because
and if you didn't watch us live, make sure to leave us a comment down below what you thought of the video, your thoughts on Fiat's future, and some of the other crazy stuff we talked about. Make sure you get
don't
the thumbs up and a share. A share would
yeah,
be excellent.
and like I said, don't forget, just because you didn't see it live doesn't mean you can't watch it. You know, I watch these videos probably once or twice during the week, just to kind of go over what we talked about and see if it made sense the next day. So you know,
They're all right.
go watch the video. You know, if you didn't get to see it live, watch it later on at your own viewing pleasure, and you know, comment on it. Tell us what you think. So, well, I guess I will catch you next Monday.
Next Monday it is. Same all-terrain time, same all-terrain channel.
Ooh.
Ah. All right, guys.
Are
Have
you
a good night.
All right, I'll catch you.